bigger one.
Yeah, and they were obviously aware of some kind of issue with that car in the early going, and those are the sort of things that they've let it go, and that has bit them a little bit. So it's easy in hindsight to say, well, maybe should have fixed it earlier, but understanding fully why you're getting that aero disturbance and something pulling on the bodywork.
Some bodywork on track.
Yeah.
Top of the show, our Andrew Marriott asked Patrick Dempsey what it would mean to him to make the podium at Le Mans. He's been 4th in the past. Right now, he and his teammates, Patrick Long and Marco Seifrig, are running 3rd in a podium position here at Le Mans. Wouldn't that be something?
It's pretty cool. I spoke to Pat last week. He and his wife Lauren are expecting their first child here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and he made the return trip. He intended to stay over, and then because of the imminent birth of their child, he decided to come back in case there was some early news, and had a chat with him when he was home in California, and he said, we've been working really hard with Patrick. Patrick mentioned it in an earlier interview that every week they're driving something, just working on car control and all of the normal things to really get him, so when he's out in the car, he's pushing hard. And he said, we struggled in the earlier rounds of the championship. We couldn't even see the peloton. He said, now we're on the tail end of the peloton, and we can see the light at the end of the day.
Let's get down to Andrew and get caught up with the Corvette crew.
Yeah, well, with Jordan Taylor just having a yawn, having got out of the car, but looking remarkably fresh. You just did a double that time, Jordan.
Yeah, it was just a double. I think we were on a different tire, so I think it was only good for 2 stints rather than, struggle on the 3rd stint. So I think we're in decent shape. I think we're pretty even on pace with the Ferrari, so it'll be interesting to see how the strategies play out. And it's still a long way to go, still 8 hours, so we'll see what happens.
We're not sure if they've done a rotor change on that car. We know you have. I went and asked, but I didn't understand the Italian.
So yeah, I mean, we got Italians, Americans, and then Germans top 3. So it's cool to have all the different manufacturers battling here at Le Mans, and it's incredible to see how close all the different makes are.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Take a well-earned rest.
There goes the 7 car, I believe. I didn't catch the number. Yep. Garage is empty.
This is going to be a bit of a fight for them to get back in the game here. Fessler behind the wheel.
Lena Gade on the right, Ralph Yuttner in the middle, talking it over with probably the car chief.
Yeah, what a great guy Yuttner is. I mean, been part of that Yost team for so long now. Just the linchpin really there.
The slow zone for the debris at Tete Rouge.
He nicknamed the Audi race cars, and this year the number 7 is called the Dirty Devil. I'm not sure what that really relates to. And number 8 is Dirty Harry. And my notes here, Roadrunner for number 9. So.
Not Dirty Roadrunner. Here's a souvenir. Expensive one, too. Clear of the incident zone. Back on the gas. Got a question on Twitter from a fan asking, what's the difference between a local yellow and a slow zone? Well, the difference of local yellow means just reduce your speed and don't pass in traditional racing parlance. With the slow zone, the speed you must maintain is very precisely measured. In this case, 80 kilometers per hour. It was slower last year, as you pointed out earlier, Calvin. They decided it was slower than it needed to be. The idea being to keep the momentum of the race going, get the cars back up to speed. So this year it's 80 kilometers an hour, about 50 miles an hour, although it certainly looks slower when they're going through there at that pace.
The other change is there's almost twice as many zones, so the zones are shorter.
Right.
And it allowed them, they didn't deploy it or employ it widely last year. And I think a couple things. A key part of that is the GPS has to be working on all the cars. And since it's issued by the series, you've got these hundreds of millions of dollars being spent by some of these top programs, and you're giving them a piece out of their control and saying, if this doesn't work, we're going to bring you in. So you better, they have to have their act together to have confidence that those are working in all the cars.
Take a look at these slow zones and how it's projected around the racetrack. Went from 19 slow zones to 35. They're not evenly split, but essentially about every quarter of a mile around this racetrack you're going to see one. And it's just a great way of really controlling things. When you have a local yellow, it's very discretionary in terms of how the cars slow down. They don't really have, like in Formula One, you have to be a slower sector through there than you did on your previous lap. Otherwise, you're going to get dinged. That's really the only way they're doing it. And they do that in the DTM Championship as well over in Europe and predominantly Germany, of course. But 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour, is 60 last year. There's essentially two. Oh, there we see the contact. That's down on the approach to Arnage. We saw those pieces of body work.
Yeah, that's how they got there.
Yeah.
Let's go down to Andrew.
Yeah, I'm still trying to chase up this story about whether AF Corsa on that leading Ferrari has changed the front rotors, or all the rotors, no, just the front. And the team won't tell me, and they've got an English mechanic who I know, and he said no comment. In fact, I'm not allowed to tell you. Now, the sister car, the other full pro car, which Davide Rigo and Collado are driving, they've got a set of rotors and pads waiting to be changed right now. I'm just looking at them. But no sign in the car which is leading at the 51, but I would suggest they have actually changed the rotors on that car.
Well, typically there's a window, you know, say from hour 8 to 16, do you know what I mean, in terms of if they'll go 16 hours, that's your window when you can get it done. Ideally, you'd like to do it towards the back end of that window so that the brakes are a little bit fresher and better if you're in a sprint to the finish. So they're obviously keeping their cards pretty close to their chest, but if they do have to make that stop, it's going to cost them some time unless we had a safety car, full safety car procedure where you can do it in a minimal loss to the cars that stay out on the racetrack.
Right now, the gap from first to second, Giancarlo Fisichella in the Ferrari to Oliver Gavin in the Corvette, 1 minute, 10 seconds.
That's equivalent to full safety car, a third of a lap, essentially. Right. So it could be really close if they did elect to do that under a full safety car procedure, where you basically lose a third of a lap by going from one train of cars to the next. It's going to be a fascinating battle as we wind these hours down and everything starts to back time to the checkered flag in terms of fuel stints, brake issues, quadruple, triple stint tires. All of those things could be critical as close as these classes are this year.
Ooh.
Caught him by surprise there. Very late move there. He got out of the way nicely, but offline and couldn't get the car turned.
And that's in those wicked Porsche curves. By the way, the Porsche curves, the Ford chicane, you might think is an entitlement sort of sponsorship deal. In fact, it's not. Those were named that by the ACO in tribute.
Okay, Marcel, all okay on track? All okay?
All okay, all okay.
Making sure the 7 that had the bodywork repair is in good shape.
The only thing that's not okay is
where we are.
Best part of 2 laps down to the leader.
Yeah.
Curious to know what the issue was underneath that engine cover that created the delay.
As our colleague Sam Posey talked about at the top of the show, there's a million ways to lose at Le Mans, no matter how well prepared you are. And Andrew Marriott talked earlier about the parts department behind the Audi garage. And it is staggering the investment that Audi has made, redesigning their garages with an absolutely level floor with a built-in jack set in the floor. And behind the actual garage where they work on the cars is this massive structure, basically about the size of a high school gymnasium, stacked floor to ceiling with tires and parts and bodywork and just about everything you might need to maintain 3 of these cars through the 24-hour race.
It's just incredible, isn't it, to walk around there and see how organized it is and detailed, and that's how they're able to, you know, do these emergency repairs so effectively.
It really changed the game in that regard, and you know, some of the things that no other teams had ever thought to do in the history of the race, they've taken to the next level, whether it's housing their drivers in sleeping pods just out the back, or the parts warehouse, or et cetera, et cetera. They really have changed the game here at Le Mans.
And their hospitality investment matches the investment in the cars. Hundreds and hundreds of guests, all looked after with china, crystal.
And not just in one place. You see these huge multiple level chalets, and you're like, oh wow, that is the most incredible hospitality chalet. And then you find out there's 6 of them around the circuit.
It's amazing.
It's interesting because everybody's always, looked at Le Mans as the big budget places and so forth, and Audi at some point said, you know what, this is the single biggest race or most challenging race of the year. Why don't we make our name on this? And when they started, you never would have seen this coming, and it's worked. It's not a coincidence in my mind that it's coincided with the Audi brand really coming back in such a huge way worldwide.
Here comes the Rebellion car. Well, there goes the Rebellion car that Nico Prost wound up in the tire wall down in the Indianapolis corner not too many laps ago.
You see these massive squads of personnel that the factory teams bring to Le Mans. This year they've actually implemented a new restriction. If you're a 2-car operation, 65 people. If you're a 3-car, 90. But there are some exceptions like hospitality and things like that are not included in that number. But it's a massive investment. We talk about the resources that are on hand to put one of these programs together.
All right, that bloke over there with all the wrenches and the busted knuckles, oh, he works for the marketing department. He doesn't count.
The guy with the laptop is the caterer.
That's right. There's the Rebellion going into the Indianapolis tire wall in the hands of Nico Prost. That peek into the garage showed you that both cars, both of the Rebellion machines, are in the garage right now. Not good news for that team. There you see them. The red one to the left.
That incident, I'm surprised you don't see more cars off there, because it's a super high-speed entry. You bleed a little bit of speed off into the fast right-hander, but then you've got a hard braking zone with no runoff at all. It's also not flat and perfectly straight, so it's really easy to get a little crossweight in the chassis, lock a tire up. And I think that's only the 2nd or 3rd car in 24 hours, and the pace these guys are running, as hard as they're charging, all these lead cars, that we haven't had more cars do that.
There's great rhythm to that. Those 2 corners together, but there's no time to recover if you miss it a little bit. You're running out of room immediately.
Either if you're past your braking point or you're a little out of position, and so you got a little more crossweight in the chassis and you light up the front. You can't go a little straight, go a little wide like you can in all the chicanes, even Arnage.
Got a little camber in the road.
Yep.
Got to be perfect.
In the old days where you're saying, okay, we're just trying to finish this, that was one thing. But now we're, every point, and when you get into a clear track, you're pushing harder because, you got to make hay when you're not in traffic.
Speaking of finishing, only 9 of the 55 starters officially retired from this race. That doesn't include cars like the 2 Rebellion machines that are in the garage right now, but they are technically still in the going. Not much attrition thus far. A little LMP2 battle going on. A couple of Ligier chassis. There's that quick right-hander. Heavy braking for Indy.
What Tommy was just talking about right there, that little transition there out of that fast right-hand sweep, a beautiful corner, then into Indianapolis. Sam Bird doing a tremendous job here.
Look at the scoring monitor in 3rd place. Mark Webber just did a 3:21.9, trying to close the gap on that Audi in front of him, who did a 3:21.9, who's trying to close the gap on that lead Porsche, who did a 3:21.9.
How's it going?
Fessler just ran a 3:19.4, so he's in attack mode as the number 7 tries to play catch-up. As we said, a lap around here is about 200 seconds, so chipping away a couple of seconds at a time even, that's going to take you 100 laps.
Before I went to bed, I was watching the battle between, at that time, it was Bamber and I think, I can't remember who was in the 2nd car, and they take a second out, take it 2 seconds out, take another second out, and then lose 5 seconds in traffic, and so it's just this huge seesaw battle.
Chandok still in the Ireland-based Murphy prototypes.
With his co-drivers, of course, Mark Patterson, guy that we've seen compete over here in the Grand Am Championship for many years, which is now obviously our 2D United Sports Car Championship, the way it's branded these days. But keeps he's another one of these Pro-Am gentleman drivers, but just loves his racing. Keeps saying, oh, this is my last year, this is my last year, and they keep tempting him back. And what a beautiful story that would be to see him stand on the podium here at Le Mans.
There's the 47 KCMG LMP2 class leading machine. Getting back to Mark Patterson, I first met Mark when he was racing school cars with my son Matt, and another member of their group was John Pugh, who's now Michael Shank's driver. John and Michael Shank are here. If you heard our interview hours ago, they are at Le Mans, fully intending to be here. Michael says we're 98% of the way to turning up.
Yeah. They're very serious, and have obviously made the move to the Ligier chassis, so they have a natural association if they should come over here.
There's a new challenge to the drivers as the sun came up. The glare.
Call this happy hour, where suddenly track temp is still relatively cool. You got a little bit better visibility. And you do generally see some lightning fast lap times around this time of day. Getting back to Mark Patterson, he's one of those guys that he's such a nice guy, but he really annoys you because he's good at everything. Yeah, he's an artist. He does caricatures of people. He can, you know, he's a musician, fantastic businessman, and
yep. And he's one of those guys who can get on an airplane and in 10 days visit 10 different cities around the world. As I understand his business, and I'm not sure I do, it's basically finding finance for various projects and investments. But he is one of those guys who is totally unaffected by a change of many, many time zones.
He always has great travel stories. He's whenever you see him, he's a BlackBerry guy, and he's always got the thumbs moving and typing out these little blogs, which are hilariously funny.
Met his father too. Mark is originally from South Africa, and his father was a character right out of Central Casting, a guide. I can't remember the word they use, but you don't call him. Can't think of a word for that either. Relief, I suppose. But his dad, big, strong gentleman with a great big mustache and a personality to match. I can see where Mark gets it from.
Yeah.
Here is that lead GTE Pro car. Fixie Keller at the wheel. Damage on the right rear that we saw early on. Still apparent, but not causing any problems. Into that brake zone I was talking about. You get a little bit of an idea of perspective there.
Nico Prost, I believe.
I believe it is.
What a nice young man he is. I was watching a rerun of the 2011 race just a couple of weeks ago, and he was interviewed, and I think Andrew was talking to him and talked about his dad's career, and he said, well, I can't match what Dad did. He said, I'm just doing my own thing, but just said it in such a nice way, and talking about the pressure of, you know, second generation races, and I think he's really improved a lot over the last 5 or 6 years, and it's really a good force in sports car racing now. Didn't have the ultimate pace a few years ago, but now he's certainly on it and does it. You know, he's been a front runner in the Formula E championship the last couple of years, and there's some great talent in that championship, obviously,
including like Loic Duval and guys that are as sharp as they come in the sports car world.
Sebastian Buemi, World Endurance Champion. Nick Heidfeld runs in Formula E. And they'll be wrapping up their inaugural season with a doubleheader in Battersea Park in London. That should be special. Races on Saturday and Sunday to decide the championship. You'll see them here on Fox Sports.
Current championship leader is Nelson Piquet Jr., I believe, captured the pole on his Indy Lights debut up in Toronto this weekend. Assuming the race is coming up this morning. I'm not sure the exact track schedule for those boys this week, but very impressive indeed. I mean, you know, obviously you think, oh, he's an ex-Formula 1 driver, he should go in there and clean everyone up, but that's a very competitive championship and very specialized, and to jump in one of those cars on a track he's never seen before. Obviously, he's getting a lot of street circuit experience with the Formula E championship, but that's a great run for him to do that.
Yeah, and open wheel cars with he's not alone as a guy with Formula One experience. I believe the number of guys we've seen who have raced Formula One cars now in Formula E is about 14.
He's also been running full Red Bull Global Rallycross Series.
Yep.
Driving for Jimmy Vassar's partner, James Sullivan.
Talk about PK.
Yep.
He actually did very well in the season opener, so he was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. Scott Speed, I believe, finished one place ahead of him in Rallycross. Speed left his Formula E car to stay with the Rallycross series. PK had to make a decision. He came back to Formula E to try to win that inaugural championship.
Oh, look at this.
Ooh.
Wow. Nice rast there.
Getting back on the good surface as quick as he could. Wow.
That's going around a fellow LMP1 hybrid competitor. This shows what sort of pace that Audi has compared to Toyota this year.
I know just what that young lady was thinking. He told me, come to Le Mans for the glamour. We'll stay in a chateau. We'll drink champagne.
Getting back to the PK thing, I think it's quite refreshing how we're seeing a lot of these drivers now willing to try other disciplines. I mean, before it's like, well, I've got this name and I don't want to risk going over there and getting beaten or shown up. A lot of these boys are now doing that, which is pretty cool.
The car we haven't seen in a while. Another of what you call them, the Lone Rangers, Tommy.
Yes.
The Corvette without its sister car, and the factory Porsche without its sister car, which retired on the second lap of this race with an engine fire.
For so long we talked about, well, we're down to 7 cars in GTE Pro, and Aston Martin had 3 of those cars, and they're running really strong. The first Aston Martin, now the 95 car, is now down in the 5th spot, some 4 laps off the front-running pace of the number 51 machine. So things have gone awry for Dave Richards and his boys at ProDrive.
I kind of touched on that a little bit. You know, they've been so strong here at Le Mans, but somehow, even with the numbers, they, the cream seems to rise to the top. I shouldn't say he's not the cream, but it just seems like the Aston can't close the deal here. I think right in front of Christensen, I think, is the class leader. I think that's Fisichella right in front, so he is just over a lap down. But at the start of this race, there was Astons everywhere. It was 1, 2, 3, and 5.
Had great pace, and we spoke to some of the competitors against them, just saying they're going to be awfully tough. They seem to have it everywhere.
Yep. And their defense still running 1 in first place in AM.
Christensen in.
3rd place in GTE Pro. Ferrari, Corvette, Porsche, 1, 2, 3 in GTE Pro right now.
Michael Christensen's a really nice guy, kind of quiet. He's from Denmark too, a Dane from Denmark. I said, do you ever like say, when you're getting a dinner reservation, Christensen, race car driver, I need a dinner table for 2, and you're straight in? He kind of smiled, and Roy Grin trying to use TK's popularity in his home country, but he's certainly a man on a mission. Very close to getting one of those prototype seats this year. He was very impressive in the testing, and the reports I were getting, which were pretty much unofficial, but the rumor mill was that when they put those guys in the cars for the first time, he was on it. I mean, Christensen was like, whoa, he woke everyone up in terms of his immediate pace, and then they did subsequent tests and obviously looked at all of the various disciplines, but he was very close to getting one of those seats in the 3rd car that now leads here today at Le Mans.
Kind of a deep bench there.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
And with as much as they have going on, some of the younger guys that haven't quite broken into the national traveling squad got to be liking and saying, whoa, this pace continues. Seeing some more opportunities. And if the young guys run as well, close this out and win this race. Good shot of that damage.
Top 3 cars in GTE Pro, reverse order. Viper
down in the 5th spot in class. There's Aston Martin and then the SMP Ferrari. And Dempsey sitting in the 3rd spot. Another Scuderia Corsa, number 62 in the 4th spot. Then the Riley machine.
All the American cars kind of piled together. You got Dempsey, Long, Bell, Sweedler, Miller, or Siegel, and Bleekemolen and Miller, Keating.
Lead car in the class getting service. Pedro Lamy, the man who put it on the class pole, now behind the wheel. Those iconic Gulf oil colors.
Those guys certainly seem to have the magic this year in terms of putting the numbers on the board and getting it to the checkered flag as well. Be a huge moment for Paul Dallalana if he can climb to this top step this afternoon.
Notice the Viper is known as a GT-SR, not the GT3R. Excuse me, that Ben Keating and Jerome Bleekemolen race in the Tudor United Sports Car Championship in the United States and Canada around a Canadian Tire Motorsports part coming up in a month or so. We'll take a break and return. There are your leaders in class, 4 different classes, 4 different brands. We'll be back. Back live at Le Mans, riding aboard the number 8 Audi e-tron Quattro in the hands of Oliver Jarvis, running 4th in the overall and LMP1 hybrid category. Nico Hulkenberg leads the number 19 Porsche 919 hybrid. Rene Rast in the first of the Audis is second.
14 seconds behind us. That 17 car ahead of us is exactly 1 lap ahead.
Tommy, you know, Dan Binks once told me you like to get a lot of information when you were driving. You were one of those guys who want to know what everybody else was doing, what their lap times were, when they pitted, all that kind of thing.
Yes, I didn't like to say a word on the radio. I had a code. 1 was yes, 2 was no, 3 was repeat button clicks. I didn't even like to talk, but I wanted as much information as I could because, you know, we didn't have as much going on. We didn't have, and so I was trying to keep track of the strategy and so forth.
I'm losing time behind, but I've got pretty much under steer to get close.
Jarvis saying he's got too much understeer to get close to that Porsche. Sounds like both cars are dealing with a similar situation. Hulkenberg was complaining about the same thing in the Porsche. And so, you know, in terms of trying to make all the decisions in terms of some strategy and so forth, wow, close that in a hurry with that.
Yeah.
Getting caught just for a couple corners.
And that's 4th position. Jarvis going by. Oh, he unlaps himself from Mark Webber.
It's on the same lap as Webber, but not the leader of the race, so still a bit of work to do.
That's right. That's what they just told him, wasn't it? The car ahead is 1 lap ahead.
And we saw the lead Porsche come by Webber as well about an hour ago, 40 minutes ago perhaps.
We were having a laugh last night when Romain Dumas was getting frustrated with the engineers telling him that he needed to brake later and harder and kept flying off the racetrack as if Kimi Raikkonen was in this field. What sort of info he'd like.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. You get people saying, leave me alone, stop talking to me.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. It's funny, speaking of Dan Binks, right before you said that, you know, we sent Andrew down to Ferrari to ask about their brake change and wouldn't tell him. So Binks just told me, Ferrari brake change coming soon. It's on. So if you want to know what's going on, ask their competitor.
Right, ask the other team.
Yeah, they know. They're monitoring.
I think that's what Jordan Taylor was alluding to. Let's see how the strategy plays out. I think they knew they've been keeping tabs that they had not done a brake change, and unless some new know-how had been developed, and they were going to try to do it without a brake change.
Tell you what, though, that 51 car of a special ingredient, and that's Jimmy Bruni. If this comes down to a dogfight at the end, he is amazing in one of these GT machines. You even talk to the other guys who run with him or against him, and they'll all say he's something special.
An alien.
A mutant.
That was for position.
Yeah.
That was Dempsey and Townsend Bell getting after it.
What 8 megs looks like with the Porsche blown by Jarvis again. Just has that incredible burst of acceleration off these low-speed corners when it's harvested the full capacity. And as we've seen, the Audi seems to be very strong at the tail end of the straightaways in terms of the aero efficiency of the race car.
That's for 3rd place in GTE AM. Townsend Bell in the Ferrari, Patrick Dempsey in the Porsche.
By aero efficiency, basically, it's here. Most tracks it's just downforce, but they do everything in lift versus drag, or downforce versus drag. How much downforce do we pick up? How many counts of drag? And so and they're all dealing with the same thing. And the fact that Audi has been able to, kind of make a leap forward where they have as much or more downforce and less drag than they used to.
Yeah, and that's kind of, you never normally find that. I mean, they went to Spa, typically they try both configurations, their normal high downforce setup versus what they're going to bring to Le Mans. They found that with the Le Mans setup, they had better stick than the high downforce car, better straightaway speed, and everyone's saying, what you're seeing on the car here, you're probably going to see for the rest of the year. It's that efficient.
Final chicane onto the straightaway. Good seat still available on that grandstand, but it's early.
Sam Bird in, still running in the 2nd spot. They continue to try and chase down that number 47 car that's led from the get-go here.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. But as we saw last year, it was the final 2 or 3 hours, suddenly even the front-running cars that had been pretty faultless throughout the whole course of the race suddenly started to have issues. So this one will play out in LMP2 again, I think.
Yeah. To see also, I mean, it was only from the overhead, but that was Patrick Dempsey coming onto the front straightaway, and okay, you know what, Townsend, it's now, the scoring's now updated. Yeah. I was going to say it was showing him he was 8/10 ahead at Mulsanne, and then he was 6 seconds ahead, but it's 6 seconds ahead of the next car. Right. Townsend Bell has gotten around Patrick Dempsey.
To your point, Calvin, about how things can change, Tom Christensen, now retired, was asked what his favorite victories at Le Mans were. He said his first, his last, and that 2008 race when they basically looked like they had no chance, and somehow they found a way to come through. They were something like 5 or 6 seconds a lap slower in qualifying.
Yeah, exactly. We had the rain that year, and they just executed the perfect race. Full-on pressure. You just couldn't afford to blink, and they got the job done when the Peugeots were so much quicker. And that ranks Tetika as a very special win. Keep it going.
There you go.
first chicane.
Seems like a long time ago that 92 Porsche came out of that chicane on fire. And they put all that speedy dry down on the track to soak up the oil.
Eric Maris from Paris has had a eventful day here.
Yeah, this guy had a problem. He had one of the highlight spins at night, remember, coming through the Ford chicanes, where he looped it around when we went back to green after a caution period and nearly spared into someone who was making his way into pit lane. So been struggling a little bit. It's a great little battle here, not for position right now, but
going by the 40, the Chrome Racing Ligier.
We talk about the pace that you go again. Wow. He's really having problems.
Needs to take a breath here and just kind of.
He's got something going on. There's some kind of issue, but don't keep overdriving the car. So
right.
Take a look here. That's just too much speed, it looks like.
Yeah.
An issue in the cockpit.
Meanwhile, back to the 17, Mark Webber.
Car pits. Jarvis.
269. Got the pit lane to himself.
13-lap stint. It's been the consistent number for Audi and Porsche throughout this course of this race, unless there's been some kind of issue. I've seen guys pit a little bit sooner if there's been a tire issue, something like that, but pretty much that's been the number to hit. You don't want those two mixed up, because one's going to clean your windshield and one you're going to
drink.
Mess with your mechanics, because they can get you back. Brad Kettler there, the car chief, friend, headed the Champion Racing operation for so many years for the squad down in Florida. Head of customer racing for Audi here in the US. Does a great job. Just it's great for Audi to have someone of Brad's technical knowledge and just passion for the sport to be helping out all of their customer programs throughout the various sports car series in the US.
Talk about credibility when he's dealing with all those customer teams. You know, everyone's looking at what's the latest, greatest piece, and when you have a guy like him calling on you.
And it's sometimes funny, you get teams who switch to the Audi brand, and you know, Brad is always there in his team to try and assist, and you hear little snippets of stories of people who don't really know who he is, and they kind of got their own way of doing it, and Brad's been there, done it before, and he kind of has to let some of the guys learn their own lessons, and then they realize, man, we should have listened to Brad. He's really on top of things.
Here comes the 9. Rene Rast from second on lap 272.
Smiles from Dr. Ulrich early in the going. I wonder if the smile is still as strong. I mean, they're loving the battle. We talk about the fact that all of these big teams love to have strong competition, but they like to win also. And suddenly, as we get a little bit closer towards the checkered flag here today, that Porsche threat seems very real. They haven't had the reliability issues that they had last year, and the little niggly issues. Other than the 18 with the braking problems, the other cars seem to have been pretty strong.
Notice the mechanic that was working on the windshield. Is he using a rag to clean that thing? Nope. He's got special mittens on. Oh dear.
Oh no.
Wow. The 96 car.
That's right there. Karting.
Yeah.
That's a big hit.
That's a big hit. I'd be curious to see if the 51 car, if we have some kind of safety car procedure here. Yeah, we see a
full safety car.
Look for that 51 car. If they need to do that brake change, this would be probably the moment they'll try and do it. That's a big hit. Big hit.
The kind of jolt the crew wants in the garage. Goethe in the car.
A lot of the funding behind this Aston Martin racing program.
I think that was you know, the lead Porsche. They go around the outside of that long right-hander, but kind of late and forced that car wide.
See the wall very close to the track at that
hot,
point.
You know, the gravel trap. I don't think there, you can see the other part of the wall looks like it has tires in front of it. That is a bare exposed wall.
Fourth safety car of the race in a long time since the third one.
Talk about the continuing evolution of the track safety here at Le Mans. So many changes year to year. A lot of investment is put into making this racetrack safer. And they get a lot of input from guys like Mr. Le Mans himself, Tom Christensen, on the areas of concern. But you continue to learn, and cars go off in various areas in different ways. You never stop learning.
Yeah, it's never the same way twice, is it? Wow, sharp angle.
See what the race stewards think of that move. Be nice to see another view of that, but it was a pretty late move by Nico Hülkenberg and forcing the issue there.
Unbelievable patience exhibited thus far by the entire field.
When you're a driver with a history like Nico Hülkenberg, I mean, racing at the very top level for so long, where you can kind of make assumptions about the ability levels of the drivers all around you, to put them in an environment like this, over 160 drivers in the race, and some of them with skills that come nowhere close to what Nico has. You sometimes can make the wrong assumption about what somebody's going to do in a tight situation.
Absolutely, and they will see a tire down on that P2 machine, so he'll be hitting pit lane. But you're spot on there, Bob. I mean, everyone has different lines, styles, how they're going to react to the traffic. You don't know who. I mean, sometimes the teams are on the ball enough to say, hey, be careful. If they know there's someone out there you got to watch for, they're behind the wheel, you're coming up on them. But you're pretty much reading it for yourself, and you look at almost the body language of the car and how they're going to react. But it's constantly changing. It's almost like the track conditions changing. The cars you're coming up on, you could have seen that car just 5 minutes ago. Well, suddenly there's been a pit stop and a driver change, and that driver's not going to do the same thing that you saw from that same car number just moments ago.
And a guy who spent his entire career in single-seaters, single-class racing, where everyone's going at the same speed. You're not getting into lap traffic. You know, he hasn't faced as many of these situations as a lot of the other guys.
And that's one of the things you hear in like guys like Alain Prost, where he was reluctant to come here because of that factor.
Right.
And it can be a toxic mix at times. Almost re-accelerated right at that critical moment.
When the grip suddenly goes away.
That one corner is it's a little bit off camera there. You know, so there is definitely a speed check. and the car doesn't want to turn, and if you turn in late like he had to because he was being forced wide.
It's one of the BR01.
There was also a big piece flying, whether that was from contact between the two cars or from the Porsche going over the curb. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he definitely had to eat some of the inside curb there by making the move to the inside. So, don't know if he was just too late or the Aston started to squeeze him a little bit, but Nico was committed, and
you can't squeeze him because the speed differential at that point, he was coming from a way back. I mean, when he was probably still a little bit behind when you know the Aston starts to turn.
And the approach speeds are so extreme that, you know, again, you're coming through the Porsche curves there. You may try and take a look in your mirrors as you enter them, but suddenly there can be a prototype that you're not even seeing on entry, and then suddenly you get through the Porsche curves and they've made up 6 seconds maybe through that sector.
Well, you're just not expecting someone that late. You know, and you've seen guys, they're using that long right-hander for good effect and for good reason. And so the irony is this is the most breathing room that Hülkenberg or any of the lead cars have had the entire day. And so the immediate pressure actually wasn't there.
Well, we'll take this opportunity for a break. Sun peeking through the clouds. Coming up on 7 hours, 13 minutes remaining in the 24 hours. Welcome back live to Le Mans. Still behind the safety car following a major crash involving 55-year-old Roll Goethe, Hamburg, Germany, number 96, Aston Martin Racing Vantage.
Like the 51 car has been in the pits. Tony Vielander now listed as the driver, so I'll be curious to know if they did do that brake change on the 51.
This would be the time to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, they would have been getting into real difficulty and so this was perfect timing for them. Obviously, they'll have to, if they got it done quickly, they maybe get it done just and go one pace car behind.
The way this thing is shaken out, you certainly want your sharpest weapon at the end of this fight, so you don't want to compromise anything in terms of how this thing is going to run down the last 7 hours plus.
Long, tall Swiss Sebastian Buemi in the number 1 Toyota.
These guys have got to just be so frustrated. I mean, finish this season on a high by winning the championship. Obviously, Porsche won the final round of the championship in Brazil last year, but you know, you expect, okay, we're going to develop our car, we should be right in the mix, and then it's like a shock to the system when you see, wow, where did that speed come from the other two camps?
It's another one of those multinational organizations. It says Toyota on the car, but strong Orica influence in it. engine and race car designed, built, and maintained in Europe.
Had a little bit of experience with that on a different scale, but when I was racing GTP, we had that Bob Rowley designed Chevy Intrepid, and I had my accident midway through. Oh, we're going to get a look at this.
That's definitely going for it. That's total commitment there. There's not enough track between those two corners, I think, to make that move. He needed to bail on that, I feel, Tommy. I don't know what you think.
Oh, well, no question. You could see the speed difference. If he bails, he's literally giving up probably 4 or 5 seconds, which he doesn't want to do. But
he was so committed.
They've done it so many times over the course of the last 18 hours.
Just
and he's got a lap in hand.
Let's get an update from the pit lane with Andrew.
Thanks very much. I'm just at the AF Corsa 51 pit, and as I arrived here, I just saw them completing the brake change. So they have done that as we were speculating. So that's done. Also on the way here, I did talk to Stuart Hall, who is a teammate of Royal Goat, and he was just on the way to the medical unit here to see the guy who, of course, has sponsored him for many years, and Stuart usually drives the role. So not sure of the conditions. Stuart didn't know. He was just being taken into the medical unit as I left him. And guys, just to tell you, I had a quick pit stop myself. Egg and bacon and a very nice cup of tea at Audi.
Now there's a relief.
Send one our way. I love America, but the bacon is not quite the same.
Well, I don't know what that stuff is you call bacon.
Oh.
We'll pass along any information we get.
This changes things. I thought this was the corner before. This is just kind of the wiggle. You can go through this leaving a car width. So this is not the last off camber one after the long right-hander. So that actually changes. I mean, if the fast cars, they're expecting them to leave a lane there. That changes the perspective on that.
If the guy knows you're coming, that's the critical factor. He's got to
but with that closing speed, they've been doing it all day, and they're expecting that to happen.
As the crewmen walked up to the car, were told not to touch it. The fuel hose was going in, and they needed to get the car back into its pit box before they jumped on it. Alex Wirtz, that unmistakable helmet livery that's really not changed over the last couple of decades.
It's kind of analogous to those wiggles where Rockefeller had that, where a car can stay on the outside lane and they're just, they just expect you take it for granted. Obviously, it didn't work out that way, but you assume they're going to leave your lane because you're coming 50 miles an hour faster and you've been doing it all day. And I mean, there's no way he could have bailed, really.
Right. Yeah. No, he's committed, and if he'd said, "Oh, it's not going to happen," well, what do you do? I mean, you can't just jump on the bonnet. You probably lose control of your own race car at that point. But I don't think that he saw it coming.
No, he definitely didn't.
Surprised.
But I don't think I thought it was the corner before, in which case you'd say that was way too aggressive on Hulkenberg's part. I think that was kind of a normal progression. You see guys leaving, both LMP2 cars and GT cars leaving that lane on the inside there. And it's also way faster than that one before, which is why, it had the result that it did.
One of the safety car groups. Not a large group. One Toyota. It's in the Indianapolis corner. There's Alex Wirtz being held at pit out.
Yeah, and basically, if know, as we've mentioned many times before, the safety car procedure here is a little bit different due to the length of the lap. There are 3 safety cars that are dispatched at various points around the circuit. One at start-finish, obviously, pit lane. One after the first chicane and one at Arnage. And if you decide to pit under the full caution.
And then you've got 19, a couple of cars ahead of you, who are the race leader, 1 lap ahead of us. Then you've got 9 just ahead of 19, who's on the same lap as us for position. They are P2.
Talking about the communication process and just bringing Mark Webber up to speed in terms of where everyone's at. But essentially, if you decide to pit, you have to wait for the next safety car to come by and join that train of cars. So it's about 6 minutes under the speed of the safety car to complete a lap. So you're going to have about a 2-minute wait. The normal service is about a minute, so you're going to sit there at the end of pit lane unless you're doing other servicing to the car.
Krone Racing Ligier comes to a stop. Tracy Krone in the car.
Great team led by Gary Holland there and working hard with this program on both sides of the water. Did the initial rounds of the Tour de Championship at Daytona and Sebring.
Love these super slow-mos. Mentioned earlier, pretty good gap between our 3rd and 4th full course cautions or safety car periods. 8.5 hours, 8 hours 34 minutes to be precise.
In the train of cars there, the number 9 car is literally just on the lead lap as he's positioned immediately in front of our race leader right now, Nico Hulkenberg.
Here's a look at the scene, which looks to be pretty much ready to go.
See if there's any damage to the right front corner of that lead car.
Have all the high-tech gear you like, but ultimately it comes down to a broom. Porsche crew ready for a stop.
Sometimes you'll see, or how did they get the strategy wrong? Some of the teams elect to actually pit immediately when you go back to green, because your time loss is actually less under green conditions than doing it under yellow.
Well, these multiple safety cars, it's kind of flipped strategy exactly the opposite way.
Yeah.
If they had the old way, you would absolutely stop under yellow versus green. This way is kind of got, and the reason for that is, think about it, if you'd had this race unfold and say Hulkenberg was almost a lap ahead of Rast, literally 8 miles in front, you have one safety car, that car would circulate around and make up 8 miles that took 18 hours to build.
Yeah,
right. No word yet from the race control as to when they expect to call off the safety cars and turn the field loose.
We've got to be getting pretty close, and we saw the 19 car setting up, so see if he's kind of running out of fuel anyway and needs to make that pit stop, or whether they're just going to play a strategy call there. And
also wondering why they didn't grab the leader and let that Audi go to the next safety car.
Wake up, sleepyheads.
I think when they dispatch the safety cars, they don't really, you know, we're used to in the US, where's the leader, try and pick them up. I think they just send them and just break up the field. However, I think it's pretty random in terms of how they dispatch the cars out there.
We've talked now and again about how the track is set up. The facility of the ACO, the Automobile Club of the West, that organizes the race. They have the Bugatti circuit that hosts a number of motorsports events on their property. And then they open the gates at either end of the property and go out onto the public roads to make up the 8.5-mile loop. It's synonymous with Le Mans, but much as what happened at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, which was also a true road course at one time, Bit by bit, sections of the public road were closed to...
The 19 car looked like he was heading towards the pit lane. The background there.
Let's look at the full field rundown. Sections of roads in Belgium were closed to create a completely race-only facility. And that sort of thing is happening here at Le Mans. I saw a note that a new road has been approved that will bypass the Indianapolis and Arnage corners, which will become racetrack only, not public roads anymore. Hard to imagine the entire 8.5-mile loop would be devoted strictly to racing, but who knows? In a way, it'd be a shame, I think, because the romance of
dollies are set. Dollies are out.
Yeah.
I think Hulkenberg may have some damage to this race car. I have to wait and see. Yeah. It's our leader. Going to hit the garage. Actually, the right side that had made contact with the Aston Martin.
So the engine cover's coming off.
Andy going in.
They're repairing something or just setting up for the...
Oh, maybe there's just some things they'd like to ideally freshen this. And we talk about sharpening the weapon a little bit. Maybe they're just taking this opportunity. They'd obviously like to try and get this whole service done within 2 minutes. Then they're effectively losing nothing. They're just going to rejoin with the next train of safety cars.
Some work going on at the back.
Yeah, probably got about 60 seconds to play with here in terms of the car actually being in the garage.
I think that's a new engine cover. Maybe slightly different aerodynamically.
Possible.
They've done a tire change. And of course, when the car's in the garage, you can put a lot more hands on it than you can when it's in the pit lane.
Yep.
Down to Andrew.
They just changed the rear deck, had a quick look around, no other damage, so it's gone now with a new rear deck. And everybody claps. They're led by the director I spoke to earlier, Mr. Hatz. Everybody applauded that, and they're congratulating themselves for a job well done.
And that will have cost them nothing, Andrew, because he would have effectively been sitting there anyway if he'd just taken fuel and tires. So put it in the garage. He stays within the same sequence, so it's a no-brainer, really.
So he'll have to go back one safety car. So,
but he would have had to do that anyway, and
with a stop.
If he'd stopped, yeah.
Right.
With a stop.
So put some speedy dry down there at the scene of the accident.
Now, of course, hindsight being 20/20, looking at this accident area up here, they've got a gravel trap there, but with the speed of the cars there, you'd almost have been better off keeping the wall closer to the track so you couldn't generate any angle there.
Looks like the 64 Corvette has come onto the pit lane.
And he was 13 laps into this run. They've been doing about 14 lap runs, I believe, with this car. So he was pretty much running out of fuel anyway. Obviously get some fuel save under caution. This will be a great battle here the rest of the way between these guys and the AF Corsa Ferrari, Porsche nipping at their heels as well.
So it looks like even though they're not doing a driver change, they are going to do tires because it's going to cost them the minute.
Andrew.
Yeah, well, now we saw them earlier do the front rotor change, now doing the rear rotor change, or disc brakes as I call them, as you know. And obviously this is the right time to do that. Now remember, they had a bit of a problem with the front rotor change. The front left was a bit difficult, but this seems to be going nice and smoothly. Again, they have left the car out on the pit lane to do this, so it's all going pretty well as far as I can tell. The new rotor is already on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, yeah, they're keeping up. So just a perfect opportunity to have some really nice crisp brakes for final however many hours. How many hours are there left? I've lost count.
Just over 7, mate.
All right, okay. Feels like about, well, goodness knows what. Yeah, that's finished now. That rotor change. The rear Michelin's are going on. Rattle going, you can hear it going, and the car will be off and away. I just wonder if he'll be able to get out just to sort of see there's a whole group of cars going by. The light is green at the moment. If they can get this out now, they will be able to get out. It's turned to red again, unfortunately, so they will have to wait there. If they just done it 10 seconds quicker, which would be virtually a record, I would have thought, they might have got straight out, but no, he's being held at pit out.
Yeah, that just cost them a third of a lap.
Yep.
So that was what we saw with Porsche in terms of getting that work done on the car and staying in sequence. They went two safety cars behind because they didn't get it done in time. If they had got to the end of pit lane and been, like Andrew said, 10 seconds quicker, that would have been a normal routine stop and just moving to the next train of cars.
Renee, you need to brake less. We need to cool down the calipers. You need to brake less.
Silence gives consent.
One of the things you're doing when you're trying to, obviously everyone feels we're getting close here to going back to green flag racing. The drivers utilize the brakes to try and generate tire temperature by accelerating and braking, and there's obviously, I'm not sure what the discipline is or the best way of harvesting hybrid power as well. That's obviously a factor now these days with these prototype machines, but typically you're just accelerating and braking hard, getting those brake temperatures up. That then goes through the wheel and into the tire to get some grip when you need it. They were obviously seeing something on the telemetry that was indicating that he was doing that too aggressively.
The crowd beginning to return to the hillsides. Parking lots filling up again. The crowd gets ready for the final 7 hours of this 83rd running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Those camping areas jammed. Flags of all the nations. See the Canadian flag out there. France, of course. Switzerland, Britain, Portugal. I can't make up my mind if it's cold out there or not. You see guys all bundled up in their parkas, and then folks in t-shirts. No word on the crowd size officially, but I'm betting it's a big number. On board with Marcel Fassler. He's going to pit.
Yeah, and he actually went 14 laps there because of the fuel save that you get behind the safety car.
The Rebellion car's in, the 12. Fessler pits from 4th. Andrew awaits him.
Yeah, the car's just come in. I got stuck behind some man with a very clever steady cam thing, and they wouldn't let me by, but I'm getting up there now. This looks like another routine. Put the fuel in. Let's see if they're doing anything else at this time. Just cleaning the windscreen, but nothing else going on. The fuel going in. No problems now with that rear bodywork. Let's go a bit of tank tape on it though. So fresh tyres are going on this stop. No driver change. And I wonder if they're going to be able to get out. The Corvette was, as you thought it would be, Calvin held for quite a long time. And some more patches of racer tape or gaffer tape going on the right-hand side of the car on the rear. So they're still a little worried about that bodywork. And let's go back to the booth.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
We might have just seen the pivotal break in that GTE Pro battle, not getting out on that safety car will have separated Verlander from Gavin.
Yeah, that was critical, really. And as Andrew said, it was just a few seconds. He was looking down pit lane and could see suddenly the cars that were sitting in pit lane got released. And as soon as that train of cars goes, they immediately go back to red, so you're not allowed to just go down there and continue out onto the racetrack.
Safety cars are off. The green flag is displayed, and we are back to racing here at Le Mans. There's the number 17 of Mark Webber, shown 3 seconds behind Rene Rast. They will engage. No, it's not 3 seconds. There they both are.
Yeah.
In your picture.
That's a battle for position.
Yes, it is. Second overall.
Okay, I think Verlander and Gavin are not separated, but they would have been separated by a minute on track. So the big thing that they were waiting for and the advantage they were hoping to get.
Oh. Weber there, quick react. He was going one way, and that road was not available. There we see that hybrid power, the 8 megajoules kicking in. Weber takes the position away from Rene Rast.
As they go by the leader in LMP2.
Using him as a bit of a pick.
That Porsche is so impressive, and as we talked about, gets really impressive fuel mileage as well, because the rules dictate your fuel flow is a little bit less than the other guys are on the smaller capacity in terms of the hybrid class you're in.
So Webber gets by into second place, opens that gap, and he's got that Rebellion, the 13, the red car, between himself and Rast.
Porsche runs 1-2. Just under 7 hours to go.
So after a 31-minute safety car for the accident, and now back under green flag conditions.
Okay, it's game on, Tommy. I mean, this is going to be great to see how this battle plays out here. We've seen really equal lap times, but in terms of an out-and-out dogfight, I mean, that Porsche with its increased boost from the hybrid power there seems to have the edge in race conditions. You know, when you're going head-to-head, they can pass you. Nothing you can do.
Now, we do have an update on the condition of Roald Goethe from Aston Martin Racing officially. We can confirm that Roald is conscious and talking on the radio, but we'll go to the medical center. We'll keep you updated. I suspect that's a slightly dated release, but sounds like good news. Let's hope so.
Watch this. Webber goes left. Lightning reactions, and he's got that full hybrid power coming on. He doesn't want to
Did not crack it.
No. Pretty impressive. But what I'm saying is, if it comes down to you could have a caution and let these guys go at it, how does the Audi defend that? I mean, you know, if you're out on an open racetrack, okay, you may have a better lap time, but you're going to be fighting that every time you come off one of these slow corners.
Yeah, you don't have that instant acceleration that the 8 megajoule car does.
But a long ways to go.
A long way to go, and obviously maybe the 19 car maybe dodging a bullet, getting to do that work they want to do on the car, and, and now settling in with a 2-minute advantage over the second place Porsche and Audi effectively. Third place Audi running right together. And so, I mean, 2 minutes. We saw how much they fight over 5-10 seconds over a matter of hours. So in less, I mean, it's over 6 hours to go. But they're going to need that lead Porsche to run into trouble if they want to have a shot at this.
And just the pace of play this year, both the 7 car and the 8 car have spent time in the garage, and they're playing catch up because the other cars are just running so strong.
We saw this same scenario last year. Porsche leading, I mean, I dare not call it late in the race. We're not even to the 3/4 mark yet. But they were unable to win a race that they led a substantial portion of. Long way to go.
Look, they're coming off of Mulsanne corner.
Looked like Rast trying to keep as much corner speed as he could. Try to counter the acceleration of the Porsche. Oops. Looked like they dirtied up the racing line much. It's not going to help if he's right in the middle of the road, though.
Oh boy.
It was a sister car.
Who's coming behind the wheel at the Dunlop chicane.
Not quite back up to speed.
Been a dream of Chris's to compete here at Le Mans for the past few seasons, and finally got a program put together. I think it was Kevin Estre who really was discussing with Chris his ambitions of coming to Le Mans, and Kevin kind of pieced the program together with Oak Racing.
Just doesn't seem possible to go through those curves the way that car does.
Right there where Hulkenberg made the move on the Aston Martin.
Was here.
Here.
Oh, it's here. Sorry.
Here.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
That's what I thought at first.
Yeah.
Just about 2 minutes, 5 seconds gap from first place Tandy to second place Webber. And about 5 seconds from Webber to Rast.
That's in one lap, put all that distance on Rast, 5 seconds. One of those Audi hospitality units, chalets just going out of our view there. Great overhead.
Yeah, from the Rolex aerial camera. Nervous tension crackling in the Porsche garage.
Waiting to get a couple of laps here under our belt here under full green conditions again to see who has the pace right now. These laps were affected by traffic.
Checking the battle in GTE AM. Patrick Dempsey in the 77 ahead of Townsend Bell in the Porsche once again. That's for third, the final step on the podium. Comes Alex Burks. Attractions as a spectator at this race is the pit walk. You get a chance to stroll along and peer into the garages. It's hard to call them garages. I mean, they are so high-tech, so well organized, so spotless. Look like surgical suites.
Brilliant shot there of the trees coming off of our nose. Excuse me, Terre Rouge.
Terre Rouge.
Yeah, it's a pretty sight.
Red soil.
It's amazing. We were just all oogling that Toyota last year, marveling at the speed advantage it had over the Audis.
What a difference a year makes.
Sure, Pascal Vasselon, who we were looking at there on the Toyota box, you just got to be looking at those timing screens, just saying, how has this happened over the course of the off-season?
Vasselon said in an interview, although they ran in the 6 megajoule class last year, they weren't able to actually achieve that. So in the off-season, they thought if they could get closer, they'd stay in that class. He said, we simply didn't improve as much as everybody else did. Obviously, Porsche made a quantum leap going to the 8 megajoule category. Audi also improved. Hey presto, suddenly you're a couple seconds a lap down.
And the key is the way that the advancement in the engineering, like supposedly, you know, Porsche went to the next category from 6 to 8 meg. That we see Nico Hulkenberg in consultation with his crew, but they've done it with the same weight batteries. Normally, when you go up another stage in the energy recovery system, its weight on the car. Well, they've managed to achieve that without increasing the weight. So that's amazing stuff. I mean, obviously everything has to be beefed up in terms of the MGUs and the way you're transferring that power to the ground. But even so, it's just they keep working with their partners and their suppliers in terms of making everything leaner and better.
I tell a lot of people, you know, in terms of the brain power and the know-how that goes into these cars, if we have a huge crisis facing the world, an engineering problem that needs to be sorted, all you have to do is say, okay, no F1 races and no sports car races until you guys figure this out. And they'll have it figured in about a week. I mean, just the speed of the design changes. Any other industry, you're like, okay, we need to have this improved 10%. To release in 2 years. Here it's like it needs to be this much better in 2 weeks.
Right. I've always said that about racing teams. You want to get something done in a hurry, give it to a racing team to design, fabricate, test, and stick out there on the racetrack, because the timelines are so short. Oh boy.
That's that exact same spot where the incident took place.
Yep.
Toyota's saying, okay, I'm not going to just roll over. I'm going to make you work to get by.
I kind of expected we'd see the Audi just sort of overhaul the Toyota, but it's not happening. Nope. That's Sebastian Buemi up ahead, the world champion.
Seen any spectacular lap times here in a while, so so that spate of dipping below that 320 barrier on a regular basis. 318s for the majority of the front-running hybrid machines, 317 for Albuquerque, obviously the new lap record. But these guys running 322s, 23, some of that is affected by the traffic.
Well, that was what was so remarkable. I was watching that, you know, even with traffic, consistently 18s and 19s and 20s.
We need to do a power cycle on track after first chicane, between first and second chicane. You have to go accelerate out of first chicane into first gear, fifth gear, then EMS off. Power off, wait 3 seconds, power back on, EMS back on. Be careful, you have no steering, no braking, you need to be straight line after first chicane.
Are you kidding me? Wow. Oh, man. Could you repeat that, please?
Rolling reboot.
Wow. So when these drivers get nominated for these prototype rides, there is literally a handbook that you get handed, and you better know it inside and out. They're going to remind you and walk you through the basic steps, but you should pretty much know those procedures that they just radio through to you. It's amazing technology.
No steering, no brakes.
That's right. So make sure you're pointed in a straight line.
Nothing.
Okay, tell you what. Get it up to high speed. Take your hands off the wheel. Close your eyes. Click your heels together 3 times.
They're telling him to do it between the chicanes.
Right.
So, you know, he's going to accelerate up probably to over 200 miles an hour.
And it's not exactly flat.
Race it up into 4th gear, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a sequence. Like you said, they were telling him exactly what to do in what order.
We will stay on board with him here and see. It's going to be happening here within about 20 seconds or so. Heading down to that first chicane. It was after the first chicane where they were telling him to do this, and just got to be careful. I mean, he's got that Toyota right up his chuff there.
Yeah, what about traffic?
Oh, this is a different car. Switch cars.
Yeah, 2 pairs of Audi Toyota.
It's too bad we're off the 9 car.
Let's get back to the 9 and show us the onboard shot of the driver. Weber.
Okay, Mark, you're in this lap. Focus now. Focus now.
That'll be lap 281. While we watch, let's get to Andrew.
I've got two for the price of one here. I've got Mark Lieb here, and I got Timo Bernard. Let's start with Timo first. What a fantastic race this is turning out to be, and the battle with Audi, just sensational.
Oh yeah, it's very close. I mean, it's still 6.5 hours to go, but so far everybody was running nose to tail. It's like a sprint race. We had one penalty, and we still suffer, and that's the gap that we have right now. That's a penalty that we have to serve, but everybody's flat out. It's incredible.
Mark, you'd say the same, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, the battle is insane. Like Timo said, it's pretty crazy. On our car, unfortunately, we had some issues today. We cannot run the pace like the others do, and we had some small issues as well. So the car is a bit tricky to drive, especially under braking. But you know, it's still 6.5 hours to go. We just keep pushing and bring the car hopefully to the end.
So that's the pace it's going to go now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we can do at the moment on our car, and we just hope to finish the race and score some points for the championship.
Absolutely. Thanks very much indeed. And I would suggest then they've probably got them with the harvesting of the energy, which does affect the braking. I probably think Calvin explained that, but we've got the 17 coming in just in front of me.
Yeah, certainly those systems are so complex and they're totally related to one another. So there's something going on there in terms of the proportioning, and they've been trying to work with the drivers, giving them feedback, and something you can't do in Formula One supposedly any longer, but kind of teaching you over the radio as to how to affect something. But it seems like they're stuck with what they've got on the 18 machine, but certainly the other two are running really strong here. See Mark.
That steering wheel looks high. Right up around his chin.
Clear his knees.
Well, true. Nice clear pit lane. Rene Rast continues to run in third place. He haven't left this earth, so he must have done that recycle on track according to instructions. Speaking of which, there he is.
I'm looking at this Porsche design this year. I mean, they came here last year with the new car, but they intended to build a brand new car, brand new iteration right from the get-go. That was part of the plan. They knew they were going to have to do a whole new iteration of that 919 for this second year, and they call it their Able to Win package. And right now they're running right in the mix there, first and third on the racetrack.
Talk about planning. Whoa. Is that exceeding the track limits? Here comes Moimi.
That's that exact same spot. He chose to go the long way around, figuring they'd merge right where at that apex if the car didn't leave him a lane.
Bit of excitement for one of the GT cars there at Indianapolis. Routine.
See some of the servicing that can be done. No real work can be done on the car, but you're allowed to do any sort of driver assist type stuff. You're allowed a brake and tire technician to be over there observing. Can't really touch the car, but will certainly give feedback to the team and certainly clean the windshield and anything that's driver related.
Tire change.
How synchronized that is. I mean, the probe is out and the car is moving.
Yeah.
That's your gap between GTE Pro and first and second. You saw the Ferrari in front of the Viper, and now here comes the Corvette. So it's about 5-6 seconds, pretty close to what it was right when they turned them loose.
And you get the feeling that's a battle that'll go all the way to the finish here at Le Mans, the 83rd running of a sports car classic. There are your 4 class leaders. We'll take a break and return.
It is a race of great length and many moves. It is a race of great length and many moods. It begins in late afternoon and quickly plunges into an unnerving twilight zone of artificial light. Dawn will reveal the battle damage of the night. Cars streaked with oil, others showing contact with other cars or the wall, a few missing altogether. Then, from that first light to the race's end, lie the tense last hours. Those who have come so far, always knowing that the hard-earned equity of laps run guarantees nothing.
Great battle in GTE-AM. We certainly have been focusing on GTE Pro, which is led by the Ferrari of Tony Vielander. Ollie Gavin 8 seconds behind last time across the stripe, but this 98 machine has been superb here today. Paul Dalla now behind the wheel of the lead GTE-AM entry, Tommy, and they're having a great run.
They really are, and he's doing a phenomenal job. He's the bronze driver in that car, the guy that makes that whole program happen, and really, really impressive performance.
Less than 6.5 hours remaining. Seems kind of odd as I say that. Less than 6.5 hours.
Closing in.
Coming up to the World Endurance normal race length. Rebellion.
A kind of clumsy day for that squad.
Wow. Straight again. Pick a line, any line. Not sure how much testing they actually got done with that new mechanical combination. They're getting a baptism of fire here at Le Mans. Wemmy now coming up behind those cars.
I'm sure that they were hoping, despite their lack of pace, that maybe the Porsche and the Audis would have more problem than they've seen here today. So here we see Andre Lauderer. He'll be next up in that number 7 car, and he'll be looking at the timing and scoring and realizing that that bodywork issue has cost them dearly. They've got a long fight now ahead of them. You can see he's probably got some rest, but you can see in his eyes he's still pretty tired right now.
Moments ago, Andrew Marriott spoke with Andre Lauderer.
Andre, you've had some fantastic runs here over the last 4 or 5 years, but this one's proving a bit tougher than some of them.
Yeah, it looks like not so friendly this year, but yeah, the race is not over, so we never give up, so we're going to push.
And you will push really hard. When are you in the car next?
It could happen any time because Marcel is getting close to its driving time limit, so yeah, I have to stand by. I'm ready.
Thank you very much.
The number 18 is in. This car that showed so much promise when Neil Jani put it on an electrifying pole. 6th fastest pole lap in Le Mans history, and the fastest in the 25 years since the chicanes were added to the Mulsanne Straight. But it's all kind of come apart bit by bit, as will happen at Le Mans. Braking issues, couple of trips off track into the tire wall, couple of nose changes on the car.
I think I've been surprised at with the 18 cars. I always thought the Dumas was one of... Now this Tesla on a mission there.
That's one of the Taiwanese Team AAI Porsches. They've been fairly slow throughout this event. Came into the race by virtue of their performance in the Asian Le Mans series.
Seeing Fessler there coming up on the tail end of that number 19 car. He's 2 laps down right now, so he's trying to get back one of those laps, but even so, it's a long haul ahead of him.
Now this will be an interesting test for Tandy.
Oh, that's the Dempsey car. Now it's a drag race.
Yeah, to that brake zone, and Fessler's going to push the issue. Okay. Tandy will be probably getting the radio communication from the team saying, don't fight him too hard, he's a long way behind.
Almost 20 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about that for a minute.
Getting back to the 18 car, I mean, I believe that Romain Dumas is one of the fastest sports car drivers in the world, but Neil Jani has actually kind of had the edge. And that really puts into perspective how quick he is.
Guy that actually did a stint in America with in Champ Car.
And a very easygoing guy out of the car is Neil Jani. Lauderer. Such a great part of the track here.
The low flag here is the second chicane. Some kind of slow vehicle over in that area, I would suspect.
See how hard Fessler is pushing through there. Wide into the first part of the Porsche curves.
Yeah, they'll be on max attack the rest of the way. Nothing to lose. You're effectively 400 seconds behind the lead.
This is what we saw earlier.
Yeah, look at that.
Fessler's view, never hesitated. Oops, the Chrome car is on the edge of the kitty litter. That's one of the chicanes. That's the first chicane. The fourth chicane. Or is it the second one?
Yeah,
Michelin.
Yeah.
Read the sign, Bob.
I'll tell you what, we talk about Andre Lauderer and how he's kind of the leading light on the Audi squad potentially, but you know, Trollier and Fessler really got the job done. I mean, Fessler there in traffic, amazingly aggressive. He did similar moves in the opening round of the World Endurance Championship this year and actually got a drive-through penalty for exceeding track limits. He did a move coming out of Woodcote on one of the other cars, and very late in the going they gave him a drive-through penalty, and everyone thought that was going to cost them the race, but they just had enough of a gap over the following car to still claim victory that day. That's the sort of commitment that he has. He's willing to put it all on the line, and again with that hybrid power, they don't want to lift. When that boost is up, they want to utilize it.
Coming into a slow zone. Look at this.
Watch these cars coming up from behind.
Yeah. He arrested the speed a little bit late. Again, the audio sometimes is not synced with the video, so it's hard to tell exactly.
Just imagine if they drew a penalty at this point.
Yeah.
Tracy Krone's car.
I suspect you'll see some teams developing some sort of tools to help them optimize these braking zones that they don't know anything about. I don't know what they'll come up with, but there's definitely...
I mean, sorry, it's a new situation for us, but we think even with the failures and if you're careful on brakes, we'll still be faster than switching it off. We still should have chances for the podium.
Wow, so they're talking not victory, but podium. So
yeah, that pre-cycle maybe didn't solve the problem they were having.
Audi here are starting to show the first signs of some chinks in the armor.
Take your rest when you can in a 24-hour race.
Straight out of the page book of Jack Reacher. If you read the Leach Out novels, one of his tenets is sleep when you can.
On board the 64 Corvette, Tommy Milner drove it most recently. Moments ago, Andrew Marriott caught up with him.
Well, Tommy, the 64 Corvette got a bit unlucky when you did that rear rotor change. You just didn't quite get out of the pit lane and you got that red light and held you up. So you're a little bit on the back foot now.
Yeah, a little bit. We definitely had enough time to get that done, and you know, these things happen sometimes where the pistons don't want to recede all the way, and this makes it more difficult to get the new stuff on. So. It was the right call by the guys to make that change. We just were unlucky with the problems we had. So not where we want to be. We were first.
with a decent lead, but obviously we're still in the race. We're still close. We're only 10 seconds behind the leader. Still a long way to go. So we're still very happy with where we are. The Corvette's been running really well all night long, and it seems like the more rubber goes down, the better we get. So hopefully the rain that is sort of sometimes being forecasted stays away, and we'll have a nice dry run to the end.
Yeah, well, the rain fortunately has stayed away. Let's see what happens. You get back in the car quite soon?
Yep, I'll be back in the next stint here. Next time Ollie comes in, I'll get in the car. And again, not sure yet if I do a double or a triple, but I mean, now we're sort of looking at the end a little bit, so it might do a triple just to kind of get us as far into the end of the race as we possibly can and save ourselves a bit of time there with the tire change. So we'll see what happens. That kind of depends on how the pace is and things like that. But certainly looking towards the last 2 hours of the race now and thinking about making sure we have a good car for us for the end.
Thanks very much. We'll be watching.
Well, we talk about potential of triple stinting again. I think we spoke to Jordan when he got out of the car and said the tire compound he was on, they couldn't go for a triple, so they probably went a little bit softer in the cooler conditions of the evening. And now they're probably on a slightly harder version of that Michelin tire, which may allow Tommy and co to start to triple stint again.
Well, he said, you know, the car seems to be getting better and better. And that last lap Ollie ran, his lap was right at the Ferrari's best lap of the race at 56.2. So, you know, not over. They're only 8 seconds back and running a little bit quicker with 6 hours to go. They got to like their chances.
Took them a while to get the Chrome Léger back on track. But it's on its way now. Hopefully we'll be back to green in that slow zone shortly.
And I like the slow zone concept because before it was like no passing under yellow, but you're supposed to slow down, but people don't want to give up lap time. This way you have to and arrest that speed and keep it under control. And again, it's all about policing it, and with the GPS now they can do that.
You need to save the drivers from themselves. You know, we saw that horrific incident with Jules Bianchi in Formula One, and so this is a pretty sensible approach using new technology.
Yeah, I'm with you, Calvin. I like this idea. You've got the technology to make it work. Safer for the drivers, more exciting for the fans. They get to see cars at speed more often. As Jörg Bergmeister.
Air ducts we haven't seen before. Blowing lots of air.
Adjusting the steering wheel.
Tilt and telescope. Look at that.
They have a slider on the seat which
can give the belts a tug.
Kind of old school in there.
This guy is in GT racing has set a standard for a long time.
It's amazing. With that sliding seat, that's what enabled he and Pat Long to be teammates for so long. It's tough to get a seat insert to work, I think, for P. Diddy.
From a safety standpoint, a sliding seat was not probably a great idea for a while, but they've since done a major redesign, proper heavy-duty tracks now.
If Bergmeister were a basketball player, they'd say he has great length.
I'll tell you what, just thinking about this Porsche versus Audi battle, the 8 car and the 7 car spent time in the garage, so they're on the back foot.
Copy, Ollie, block first lap, block first lap.
And that's to Ollie Jarvis, not Ollie Gavin, who we're on board with. That's the radio from the number 8 Audi. So we've got the 7 and the 8 trying to play catch up, and the car that is in the mix, the 9 car, has problems. So at this stage, it's definitely advantage Porsche up front.
Every shot we've seen the lead Ferrari and the lead Vet has that Riley Motorsports Viper, which is in the AM category, but you have Jerome Bleekemolen on board, and he is matching them lap for lap.
Ollie Jarvis hits the pit lane as instructed. close together they were as they turned in at Arnage.
So narrow there. You see the Audi wanting to try to ease back over a little bit, giving itself an extra foot or so. You know, the car on the outside, yeah, that was okay, but sometimes they come over a little bit too much, and there's contact where there doesn't need to be.
You see there, a guy with the stopwatch, that's Brad Kettler. He knows how long the refueling should take, and he's basically telling the guys who are cleaning the windshield within a couple of seconds, you need to be off there so we don't have any delay. So they're on top of everything. Probably giving those guys about 20 seconds to get that work done and then get out of the way. So as soon as the refueling probe comes out, we can send our driver.
It's a phenomenon I always look for when we go to a face shot of a driver in the car. Racing drivers never blink. You'd think they'd be blinking all the time in the cockpit of these cars, but
cover too much distance during a blink.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally understand it, but it's just, I mean, just sit there at home or lying in bed or whatever you're doing and just try to keep your eyes open for a long stretch without blinking. Around the outside.
Half a football field per blink.
Absolutely.
Spoke to Brad Kettler about Ollie Jarvis. He said he's fitted in really well. I mean, he's essentially been given the seat position of Tom Christensen, who retired at the end of last year. He said Lucas has really kind of assumed the role of team leader. He said Loic's so laid back, Loic Duval, and Ollie's kind of in the middle there in terms of giving great technical feedback on the car, and has really stepped up to the challenge very well. He thinks this team is going to gel very quickly and be a force to be reckoned with.
Oliver Jarvis is one of those guys, you met him on the street. Racing driver, especially in one of these Audis, is not the first thing that would come to mind. Very thin, kind of bookish looking, but he gets it done. Those boys have enjoyed first place in the LMP2 class since the get-go. There's the man who put the car on the class pole, and they are just running like a clock.
Issues this car is having exactly. Heard the communication about recycling the electronics and such, but obviously the car has some kind of issue that is arresting their speed to the point that the team is saying we can maybe hang in for a podium, and they are the lead Audi in this race.
They don't have much wiggle room now. They are third. There's the second place car, Mark Webber's Porsche.
Audi's dynasty here, the last 15 years, 13 victories, and one of those was that they didn't win was by Bentley with Audi power. Simply an Audi program really behind the scenes, and just that win by Peugeot back in 2009. Otherwise they've pretty much swept the table for a decade and a half.
Haven't had a look at Nick Tandy in a while, but he is picking him up and laying him down. 3 minutes 20 seconds his last lap.
Shortage of speed there.
So as we approach 6 hours to go, changes at the front. Porsche's running what appeared to be flawlessly. One of the Audis with some difficulty, and Fessler trying to make up ground.
But once again, this was the position we were in last year about this time. Not yet to the 6 hours remaining mark.
At Daytona, for whatever reason, to me it always seems like the 20 to 21 hour mark is when all kinds of stuff happens.
Nice moves by Mark Webber. Patient when he needed to be, on the button when he saw the opportunity. 288 laps complete as we approach the 6-hour remaining mark in this race. 3/4 of the way through this 83rd running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The race distance record set back in 2010, 397 laps by an Audi. See how close to that we can get. Not sure we're in record territory anymore, but we do have a long way to go. Side-by-side replay of the pit stops.
Pair off on the Porsche. Windshield clean on the Audi.
The Audi's still got a zillion tear-offs. Marcel Fassler officially 2 laps down to race leader Nick Tandy. An all-German battle, Audi versus Porsche at Le Mans. We'll take a break and return. Stay with us.